much for being here tonight for our first Whole Child Series event of this school year. Tonight we have see if I can get their information up there, 4 awesome counselors and social workers from across our district that are going to share a little bit about this year and kind of what things are looking like and how we can help support our students. First, we will hear from Jasmine Moore. She is a school counselor at Morningside. And then we have Erica Woodall, who's the student assistance counselor at the Colony High School. Allison Clark is a student assistant counselor for grades K through 8 for Marcus Feeder Schools. And Melody Garrett is our school counselor at Shadow Ridge Middle School. We're excited to have them here and hear their experiences to share with us tonight. So please just join me in welcoming, and I will pass it over to Jasmine, who will share with us to start.
Good evening, y'all. I hope everyone's having a good day. Once again, my name is Jasmine Moore. I'm the school counselor at Morningside Elementary in the Colony. I've been a school counselor for about 4 years, and of course, last year was as different could be. And then as we are embarking on this school year, we still are having that leftover collective trauma from the COVID year. I call it the COVID year. And as we're trying to just figure out what is the new normal. A lot of the trends that I am seeing with our little ones, I have 5 to 11-year-olds at my campus. They're resilient. If I didn't learn anything else last year, I was kind of worried about coming in with our little ones and COVID. Will they keep their mask on? Will they wash their hands? And that was an absolute yes. They were so sweet in acknowledging that we're trying to keep our friends safe and keep ourselves safe. And I was very proud of all of my Morningside babies, and I heard that from across the district that the students were doing really well. And so this year is just another new normal that we're dealing with. I have great faith that the students, they're resilient, they're flexible, they know how to pivot and turn. But in that, there's also been some struggles along the way as well. Some of the few things that I am seeing with my students this year, we're having more symptoms of anxiety, and our older kids are just worried. I think they're listening to the news that their parents are listening to, and so they're taking on some of that worldly things that we're all dealing with as adults, and it's kind of affecting their emotional and mental health. So I'm seeing a lot of more symptoms of anxiety. The little ones just seem tired and worn out. That's pretty normal starting off the school year, but it just seems like a different type of tired. And when I'm talking to them, they're saying things like, I'm up late watching my phone, I'm playing with my iPad, or things of that nature. And then just a general fear of the unknown. Since there have been so many changes along the way, I'm hearing a lot of my students just worried about not knowing what's going to happen next, or how is it going to be. So just a few pointers if your students at home or your children are dealing with any of these things. Just making sure that you're providing a safe space for them to speak to you about their feelings. I honestly believe that being honest with kids and having, age appropriate conversations is really healthy for them. So if they're asking you about something they see on the news or something they're seeing with their friends, just giving them, according to your household beliefs and, what you are wanting them to know about the world, but having the honest conversation with them so they can feel a sense of they know what's going on. It takes out a little bit of the fear of the unknown. I think monitoring technology is a huge thing, especially with the little ones. I'm a mother of 3, and I will say honestly that when we were doing at-home learning, it was so much easier for me to say, here's a device. Please go away so I can work and so we can get this done. And, the leftover part of that is the kids are becoming very attached. So kids are sneaking to get to the devices, or they're spending all of their free time at home watching YouTube and playing the game. So a healthy balance. I don't think technology is bad. I think technology is great. It has a lot of great resources. We are in a world where that is our number one thing. We're able to talk now safely because of technology. So I'm not a technology basher by any means, but I do think it's important to monitor it and make sure they're accessing things that are
Lizine, 25 milligrams a day, Adderall 10 milligrams a day, tizanidine 2 milligrams at night, gabapentin 100 milligrams 3 times a day.
I think someone's mute button may have stopped working for just a second. But make sure you're monitoring those things, and so they have a healthy balance. And in that healthy balance, I know that getting them involved in activities, now that things are opening up a lot more, dance or football or basketball, it's just a good way to get their body moving. I encourage all my kids, to do belly breathing, to go outside, walk your dog, ride your bike, but also those activities where they're having to move their body and getting involved with other people is also a really healthy thing. It helps them fall asleep at night because they're just worn out, but it also is developing those social skills and just having them move their body. And just, making sure they're getting enough sleep at night, having a boundary about bedtime, eating healthy food. Those are things that the pediatricians always tell us, but they work, they are very true. I see them, with my work kids and with my personal kids, just getting enough sleep at night. If the bedtime is 8, let's get in bed by 8 because 6 o'clock comes very fast. So hopefully those things are helpful for you. If you have any other questions, or if you guys are noticing things with your kids, I know that I can honestly speak out to my colleagues, reach out to your child's school counselor, and they would be happy to help you navigate it. Thank y'all.
Hi, everybody. My name is Erica Woodall. I am a licensed clinical social worker. I'm the lead student assistance counselor for the Lewisville ISD high schools this year. And I am based over at the Colony High School. So we are well represented. Go Cougars. I'm excited to be here tonight. This is my second year in LSD, but it's my, I think, 6th year in education, mental health. And I think this is really awesome that we have this platform to talk about this tonight, because I think, like Ms. Moore was saying, this year is the year after the COVID year, and it's almost just as important, right? And because it's really about how we bounce back. And I want to take a minute to just kind of focus on some of the trends that we've been noticing at the high school level. They are very similar, I'm sure, to some of the elementary trends as well, but a little different as well. So I sort of talked to our counseling team, and these are really anecdotal trends just that we've been noticing in our work so far with students. So I talked to our counseling team at the Colony High, and then I also talked to the high school student assistance counselors across the district. And this is kind of the feedback that I got from them, and as well as my own personal experience with my students. We're seeing a lot of kids feeling like they're a year behind, academically speaking. A lot of kids just feel like they kind of missed a year of instruction. Specifically, math is what I heard over and over again. And I think math is really hard because a lot of times we need a little bit of one-on-one help to further explain things. And maybe some of our virtual students weren't able to get that as much as they would in a normal year. So we're hearing that students are almost feeling like they don't have the prerequisite information for those classes. Another thing that was mentioned to me was diminished capacity. And I thought that was a really interesting and good way to put it. Basically, we're seeing big reactions to small triggers, right? And so we're seeing a diminished capacity among students to tolerate bigger, more uncomfortable emotions. We're also kind of seeing like school is back to business. And I think that this kind of mirrors our community, right? So like our community is back to business in a lot of different ways. School is back to business. We're all in person, which we're really happy about. But what we're kind of figuring out is that the students aren't quite there yet. And so we're kind of trying to return to normal, but they're not quite ready, or they don't have the tools to get there at this time. We're definitely seeing increased anxiety and just sort of general overwhelm. So again, it comes back to that diminished capacity. Students just feeling constantly flooded, whether that's with academics, the social piece, a combination of the two. All of this anxiety is also kind of leading to some avoidance, specifically school avoidance, trouble waking up in the morning, not wanting to come to school, things like that. And lastly, one of the things that came up, which I think is kind of interesting, is some like lack of maturity among some of our students, specifically our incoming freshmen. And it's almost like some of maybe the social skills and that social emotional growth that normally happens in a normal 8th grade year didn't happen as much as it would have in a normal year for a lot of different reasons. And so we're seeing kind of having trouble with peers and not being able to navigate that as well. And I think that, again, is related to that diminished capacity that I was talking about earlier. I want to take a minute before I get into some other things and just kind of talk about the counseling and social work programs that we have available to our students. I am really grateful that Lewisville ISD has some amazing programs to offer our students and families. And so I just real quick want to talk to all the parents and if any students are out there. If a student needs assistance, they can always reach out to their school counselor. I think most of the high school counselors are using QR codes, and so students can use their phone or their iPads to scan those QR codes and request a meeting with their counselor. If their campus is not doing that, every campus does it a little differently. I believe they can email their school counselors and request a meeting, and then they can always show up to the office and request an appointment that way as well. I think that if there's ever an emergency situation, they should 100% just go to the counseling office and let them know that it's an emergency and someone will be able to help them immediately. I also just want to say, I really try to empower students to self-advocate and ask for what they need, but sometimes that's challenging for them. And so if parents have major concerns or think that they need a little more assistance, you guys are also welcome to reach out to your student school counselor. And I have very little doubt that that counseling team will respond and help out. We have a lot of other programs outside of the counseling department, but I say go to your school counselor because I think that they are a great way to get connected with a lot of these different resources. So they may think that your child would benefit from meeting with someone like me, the student assistance counselor, and getting a little extra mental health support on campus. Maybe they can join a small group that my position or someone else is running on the campus. We have social workers available with resources. We have some parenting classes and things like that. We have our wonderful family center that offers some short-term counseling, but we also have a whole list of facilities and therapists that we can help connect families to as well. And so I think it's really likely that we'll have some sort of resource for you. So I really encourage you guys to reach out if you need any assistance. I want to talk about, I have found myself saying this phrase over and over this year, and that is perception is reality, right? It's really critical that kids feel seen and feel heard. And I think it's really easy for adults sometimes, and I'm guilty of it myself, to sort of say it's going to be fine, calm down. It's not that big of a deal. And I think that it is really important when we talk about empathy and connecting to kids that we really remember that their perception is their reality. And so when we talk about that diminished capacity, what I mean is whatever is happening feels like a big problem to them. It might not feel that way tomorrow. It might not feel that way a week from now, but right now, this is what's happening and it's completely overwhelming to them. And so just being able to listen to a kid and not even offer a solution, but just say, I hear you, that sounds really tough, can make a big difference. I think if we kind of dismiss a child who is upset while they're telling us about a problem, can we expect them to come to us the next time that they have a problem? I think it's less likely that they're going to seek help from us if we're kind of dismissive in that way, right? So I think it's helpful to kind of be aware of how we respond to kids who are in that moment of overwhelm or anxiety, right? We don't really want to say things like, well, don't sweat the small stuff, or calm down, or everything is fine, or when I was your age, right? Because this is just so different than anything that happened when I was in high school. And so it's really hard to relate on that level. But what I can say is, that sounds really hard. Tell me more about that. How can I help? You know, adolescents, like little kids, are still growing and learning. So when we talk about social emotional development, that is happening well through our 20s. I mean, through our whole life, really. But adolescents' brains are still growing and developing. And sometimes they also still need help identifying and managing their emotions, right? So helping them name emotions is a very simple, practical way for them to feel heard, seen, and connected to that adult at home, right? And so we might say, like, wow, you seem really angry right now, or wow, you seem really sad. And just helping them name that lets them know that we're listening and we're involved and we're engaged in this conversation with them. I think not trying to solve problems unless we're asked, and that's something I think we all fall into. And there's a great YouTube video called "It's Not About the Nail," right? Where the girlfriend has a nail in her head, and the boyfriend is just trying to fix it, and she just keeps yelling, "It's not about the nail," because she doesn't want a solution. She just wants to feel heard. It's a hilarious video if you haven't seen that. But I think that it's really important to kind of ask kids sometimes, like, what do you need? Do you need me to listen? Do you need my help? And do you need to find a solution? I think a lot of times they're just going to want to vent. And I think that we can listen to them, and that in itself helps solve the problem, right? We can help them access resources at school as needed, or a community-based therapist is always an option, or other treatment or other programs. And we can have a conversation with our student or with our kids about what coping skills they'd like to try, and gently remind them about those in moments of need, right? So this is a conversation we kind of have around the dinner table. You know, what are some things that help you keep calm? What are some things that make you feel good? What are some things that keep you safe when you're having a hard time? And just sort of identifying those things, whether it's controlled breathing or guided meditation, exercise or taking a walk, listening to music, dancing, reading and writing, doing art or drawing, painting, and then always engaging our five senses, because when we utilize our five senses, it reconnects our body and brain. And when we're experiencing anxiety, it disconnects our body and brain. And so they're kind of doing opposite things. So utilizing the senses, right? Touch, sight, smell, taste, and hearing are always helpful for calming down when we're having moments of high anxiety. The last thing that I really want to say is that children and adolescents learn how to regulate their emotions through co-regulation with the adults and primary caregivers that they have. And so when Ms. Moore talked about a collective trauma, like, we lived through an extremely long collective trauma at this point, and I have little doubt that every single family has been impacted by COVID in some way, and it looks different for everybody, which makes it hard to respond to. But it's really important that we as the adults take care of ourselves, and that is for a lot of different reasons. But number one, we're modeling how to manage our emotions with our kids, and so it's important that we help them identify their emotions, but we also identify ours to them, right? I'm really frustrated right now. I'm going to go take a break. I need a little walk, and I'm going to come back. That's great modeling, right? If we're not regulated as the adults, then our kids can't be regulated. And so it's really, really important that we manage our emotions in a healthy way so that our kids can as well. I'm just really excited to see the rest of this presentation, but that's really all I had for you guys. I hope that you found this helpful, and I want to say thanks to Amber for organizing everything for us.
Chris, can I get a couple of balls? Oh, there's some right there.
Hi, I'm Allison Clark, and I'm a K-8 student assistant counselor. I'm in Marcus feeder pattern. Last year I was in Marcus feeder pattern and Flower Mound feeder pattern, but we have such an amazing district and a superintendent that really believes in what we do. And so he was awesome enough to double both our student assistant counseling team and our social work team. And so now we are able to have our own little feeder pattern, which keeps us from being at 20 campuses. Now we're at 10. So it's pretty cool. I'm just going to kind of piggyback on a few of the things that they have already mentioned and just give you some resources as parents to what you can do at home, especially for those kiddos that you, like we talked about, that we are seeing higher anxiety this year. So one of the things that we might expect to see too is we might expect to see, due to their feeling like they are behind already academically, if we as parents are setting those high academic goals, then that's going to even
Oh,
put
sorry, Braden.
of sorry, I think somebody's unmuted. That's going to put more stress and anxiety on our students. So just keeping in mind that last year was, as we know, was a chaotic year. They probably didn't get what they would get in a normal year. So we just have to keep that in mind as parents, and just if they are struggling academically, reach out to their teachers, see what can be done, but setting those their standards maybe a little bit lower, and then guiding them to get higher instead of setting the bar really high at first to where they're already feeling overwhelmed. Something else that we can do too is look at their behavior. We're going to probably see some behavior that's a little bit different this year than we saw last year, and that's expected as well. So talking through with them, just like Ms. Woodall was saying, like making sure that we can say, hey, I was really feeling frustrated, or what were you feeling in that moment? One thing too that we have to be careful as parents is to check our own anxiety. Again, to piggyback off of what Ms. Woodall was saying, is we have to help our kiddos. If they see that we are stressed out and we are watching every news source that there is, we are, that our whole life is consumed with that, they pick up on that. And they may not even show you at home, but they show it at school. So that's where we see a lot of the stress too, and the anxiety, is if the parents are showing a lot of that as well. So one thing that we can do as parents is just to kind of remember that we're in an uncertain time right now, and how can we model that for our kids? We don't know exactly what's coming. We don't know how long it's going to last. And even though that's uncomfortable, how can we teach our kids to sit with the uncomfortableness? What can we focus on that we can control? That's what we teach our students a lot, is we focus on the things we can't control, not on what we cannot control. Because we could go all day long talking about what we cannot control, but at the end of the day, worrying about it isn't going to get us anywhere, and it's not going to fix the problem. So it gives the kids a lot of power to focus on the things that they can control. Another thing that I was going to talk to you about too is that mindfulness. We mentioned that earlier. Mindfulness is being present in the moment, right? We're not worried about tomorrow, and we're not looking back at yesterday and saying, oh my gosh, I didn't get 48 things done that I needed to get done, right? You're being present minded in right now. One thing that you can do is do that as a family. You could do it maybe once a week at dinner. One of the things that we do with our middle school kids is we have them taste their food and talk about it. I know that sounds kind of corny, but having them feel, what does it taste like? What does it feel like? Did it dissolve quickly? Did you have to chew it? Those things get you in the present mind moment. Another thing that we do is progressive muscle relaxation. So that's where they start at the top of their head or the bottom of their toes, and they squeeze and hold for 10 seconds, every body part individually, and then they release. And as adults, I'll tell you too, that's a good thing that we can do. When I do it with my middle schoolers, and I say, I want you to raise your shoulders as high as you can go and hold them for 15 seconds. And then when they let go, they're like, oh, wow. So sometimes we don't even realize how much stress we carry in our shoulders and in our necks and even in our jaws. So I have my kids, do their jaws as hard as they can for 15 seconds and then relax. And they were like, oh my goodness. So progressive muscle relaxation, that's another one. Deep breathing, that is huge. That's the number one way you're going to get a kid to calm down their nervous system. That goes from little kiddos to all the way to your teenagers. So get them to, there's all kinds of deep breathing activities that are on YouTube that they can do. Actually, most of your littles can probably teach you some, because they do them almost every day in their classroom or on Go Noodle. They can blow, the little kids, you can blow bubbles. puzzles, you can color, you can listen to music. There's all kinds of things you can do as a family to bring yourself to the present, to the right here and right now, not focused on yesterday and not worried about tomorrow. One of the other things too that we are seeing is, like as they mentioned, is the kids. It can be the littlest thing, but for some reason this year it's setting them off. I have a lot of parents that will call and say, I just don't get it. All I did was ask her to clean her room, and she threw a complete fit. We're seeing a lot of that. They don't have the bandwidth that they had last year before or the year previously to handle big tasks. So something you can do is break it down into smaller tasks. You can give them a choice. Okay, cool. Do you want to clean your closet first, or do you want to clean your dresser drawers out? Okay, you're doing something right now. Do you want to get to it in 5 minutes, or do you want to get to it in 10 minutes? So we call that a forced choice. You're giving them a choice, but you're kind of, guiding them to do it themselves. But kids just want to feel like they have ownership. They want to feel like they have control. So if we can put it that way, then a lot of times we'll get the result we're wanting a little bit more than when we're just yelling at them to go do it. The other thing too, just to kind of we don't think about, but a lot of times when our kids are in that dysregulated state, and that by that I mean they're either frustrated or they're yelling or they're screaming, they're not in the right mind frame at that point to want to hear what we have to say and process it. So if they're screaming, if they are upset, that's probably not the time to say, well, I just really want to sit down and talk with you about why I'm feeling this way or why I'm upset with you, honey. They're not going to listen. They are dysregulated. So we have to get them out of that emotional part of their mind and get it back to their logical part of their mind. So something we can do is, again, you could do one of your five senses. We do that a lot of times in our classrooms. Tell me 5 things you see, 4 things you hear, 3 things you smell, 2 things you taste, and 1 thing or feel. I'm sorry, 2 things you feel, 1 thing you taste. That's something they can do quick and easy, right? That gets them right back in the moment. You can do other things like tell them to find 5 blue things in the room and tell you what they are. They can spell things backwards. That's for our, upper elementary and middle and high. That's a really good quick one that can get them from their emotional part of their brain to the logical part of their brain. And what we find is that's when we can talk to them rationally, is when they're in the logical part of their brain, not when they're emotional. We know how that is with us too, right? When we're emotional, somebody's trying to talk to us and level or anything or explain something. Well, a lot of times we're like, I don't even understand what you're saying, because we're not connected. We call it our upstairs brain and our downstairs brain. They're not connected to be able to talk. So that was just one thing I would try to, move it to logical. Make sure that they are getting that physical activity that was mentioned as well. And just as a counselor that sees middle school kids and how much they struggle with sleep, oh my goodness, if I could do a WebEx just on that, you guys as parents, sleep is so important. And I can't tell you how many kids that I see that probably get 3 hours of sleep a night. That's greatly detrimental to their learning. And also everything else. They come in, they're lethargic. I would be too. They don't want to do what the teacher asked them to do. They don't have the capacity to, hang out with their friends and get along with their friends, because they just want to be in their own little space. So if we could, sleep is huge. That would be a great thing that we could work on. Even if you just, started scooting back their bedtime, like by 20-minute increments, something just to try to get as much sleep as they could get. The only other idea that I had is for our younger kiddos. If you have a younger kiddo that worries all the time, or it comes to you and they say, well, what if, or, well, if I go to school tomorrow, and Mom, what am I going to do if this happens? You can create a worry box, and they can have a specific time that they get to worry. And so anytime they have a worry, you say, oh, go put it in your worry box. And you can have sticky notes or something right there, and we'll talk about it. But your worry time is only, depending on how many worries they have. I would not start longer than 30 minutes at all. But every time they have a worry, say, oh, go put it in the worry box. Go put it in the worry box. We'll talk about it at 5. Remember, that's our worry time. and you only talk about it from 5 to 5:30, and then the next week you decrease that time to like 5 to 5:15, so give it 15 minutes. What you'll find is a lot of times they'll start to regulate on their own. They'll start to go, oh yeah, it's probably not that big of a deal. So they won't put it in the worry box. But your part as the parent is at 5 o'clock or whatever time you assign, you open that worry box and you talk with them about what they are worried about for that allotted time. But at the end of the time, you say, oh, I'm going to close our worry box, and then, we'll talk about it again tomorrow. There's something that's so powerful with the kids knowing they have that time, your one-on-one time, by the way. That means you're looking at them, you're not on your phone. I know that's hard. But that one-on-one time with you just to talk about everything that they are worried or nervous about. So that's one really good activity that you could try. And then I will put in the chat one of the resources that we use a lot. It's called Child Mind, and they have a lot of good things for parents. And you can find almost anything, behavior, ADHD resources, all kinds of resources. So I'll put that in the chat. And I think that's all that I have. Just to remember that this year our kids are kind of going in with their tanks not completely full. And so we just have to give them grace and honor that and see where we can meet them. But thank you so much for your time. I appreciate all of you for being here. And I will hand it over to the next person.
Hello, can you guys hear me? I was having a hard time connecting on my computer. If you can't hear me, let me know in the chat. So my name is Melody Garrett. Thank you. I am counselor at Shadow Ridge Middle School. This is my second year there. I was a counselor for 8 years in elementary school. These ladies hit a lot of the key points, talking about the things that will benefit the students, your kid, throughout this year. One thing I've noticed at Shadow Ridge or in middle school is that the students are having anxiety about socializing. So some pointers that I can give or that I've used is encouraging the kids to find friends in the cafeteria. Sometimes they are scared to go talk to friends, but they do have a class period in most schools prior to their lunchtime. So if they use that time to see someone that they may want to socialize with, just taking the initiative and being assertive and you guys encouraging them to do so is always beneficial. We can also help as counselors if they're having a hard time. A lot of the times we do check-ins, we walk into the cafeteria. We can encourage kiddos to use joining in words by asking, saying, hi, my name is. We kind of assume that they know each other, even if they have classes, but they don't always know each other. So just asking them to find someone, being assertive, saying, hi, my name is, can I join your group? And just knowing that they don't have to sit with the same people every time. As parents, if you notice that it's affecting them to where they don't want to come to school or to where they don't want to be in lunch and they want to eat by themselves, you can always email a counselor and say, hey, I'm just noticing these things. And a lot of the times we'll ask you, do you want us to share that you've called or emailed? Because we want to foster that independence with students. So sometimes them not knowing and us just kind of confidentially going to the student and asking and checking in on them and giving them some encouraging words would help. It's like a life skill. You have to learn how to socialize with people and interact with people, meet new people, and middle school is just a weird time, for most kids. Another thing as counselors that we can do is, like all the other ladies said, we offer, groups or individual sessions or just check-ins with the students if they're struggling with anything. We have lots of resources. We have counseling that's available outside of the school day through our family center. A lot of parents don't know that. It is a free counseling sessions for students. And a lot of the times I've noticed middle school students, they prefer digging into those deep emotions and those things that affect them outside of the school day. They just want to be at school and enjoy the day. So sometimes they don't want to dig deep into those emotions. They don't want to express themselves to the fullness like they can when they are in a session outside of school. I think that's pretty much all, coping skills, working on all those things, taking into account that we are going through a pandemic, and that just like the other lady said, when you are showing anxiety, when you are stressing, when you are constantly talking about things and worrying about the things that's going on. The kids do feel that, they do sense it. And just remembering as middle school students, not only are you going through a pandemic, you're changing as a person, you're changing emotionally, you're changing in appearance, you're trying to figure things out. So being patient with those students and again, giving them some accountability in things, like letting go a little bit, it's a little different when you're stuck between being my elementary baby and being my high school adult almost, and you're in the middle school age. You want to foster the independence and give them choice and talk to them about things, be open, and try not to freak out. That's a big deal with middle schoolers. If you freak out or if you make it a big deal, sometimes they'll shut down. So, but counselors are available, email, call, leave a voice message. The district's really good about supporting us in our roles, so we're able to see kids in all capacities. We have great social workers in our SACs that we collaborate with. And so that's pretty much it. I think that's all I needed to cover. Guess I'll take it on to Amber. Are you ready to take it back over?
Yes. Let's see. Let me go back through. There we go. All right. Thank you so much to our counselors, school counselors, and student assistant counselors that shared with us tonight. That was a lot of great information on things we can do to kind of help ourselves, whether you're a parent, a teacher, staff member, or both, or multiple different roles that you play. A lot of really great things that we can do for our students and ourselves. A couple of things that they mentioned as far as resources in the district. Of course, we have our school counselors. We also have student assistant counselors, social workers, a lot of different programs that the district has provided for us to help support your students. Probably their first connection point is going to be their school counselor. In elementary school, usually one. I know a few schools have more than one, and then of course divided by alphabet in middle and high school. So that kind of could be their first point of contact, and they can do a lot. They do a lot every day to support our students, and they also have other resources that they can connect your student with. And so I'll go through a few of those things again. So I'm the coordinator for the SAP and Choices program. So this is one of our Choices events. And so a couple of other things that we do with Choices. We do have our family center counseling that does provides 6 sessions of brief solution focused counseling for our students. And that you can get that referral information through your counselor as well. We have our Love and Logic parent classes in October and March. We do a fall and a spring series each year. October will be virtual, and you should be seeing flyers soon. We're finalizing those. Those should go out soon. So if you're interested in Love and Logic parenting classes, just be looking for that information. We also do a medication disposal day. The fall event is October 23rd, and we'll have various campuses across the district. So there should be one close to you where you can take your unused or expired medications to dispose of those safely. We partner with the DEA and local police departments to put on that event. We are adding some lunch and learn sessions this year. Our first one is November 17th. So you can be looking for information on that coming through your campus or LISD, social medias or ways that you follow us. And then our next Whole Child Series event is November 2nd. And the topic that night will be about latest trends regarding drugs, alcohol, and social media. So we'll have some kind of insiders on that side of things to share things with us that maybe our students know or are experiencing or seeing, and kind of how things are going in those realms right now, so we know what to look for and how to support our students. We have, let me get back to